Hey Remarkable Lifers, this is Craig.
And this is KJ.
And we're coming to you today from the Truly Remarkable Life Studios. We thought we would share a little bit different backdrop, different perspective of what we do every day. So this is the space in which all the videos are created. That's not what we're here to talk about.
This is Craig's office.
Yeah, this is my office. But we wanted to talk today about the ways that we have changed since coming to Mexico. So the things that have evolved, our personal opinions, our personal, the way we do things, any aha moments, all of that kind of thing. So we're going to get started. So number one, we're going to talk about language. That is the big one. I'm going to tell you right now, we crossed the border and I realized that any language skills I had were atrocious for Spanish. So yeah, it was like immediate. The accent, the colloquialisms, the way it's spoken here is just very different than what you learn in school.
What we learned in school.
What we learned in school, yes. So since coming here, I'm going to tell you a story. Can I tell them the story I just told you?
Sure.
Yeah, let me tell the story. So I was talking to someone last night, a friend of ours who is purely speaks Spanish. And usually when I do talk to him, I have to either type it or translate, put it on video chat so I can read lips so that I can match the words with the lips and then I know what is being said. And impromptu last night, he called me. And we were just chatting about something briefly. And I got through the end of the conversation and realized that not only had I been able to have the entire conversation without looking anything up, but we kind of got lost and were chatting about things randomly. Now, that person speaks slowly to me. I am probably speaking like a child. They're very patient. But at the same time, it was an aha moment for me because that has not been possible until this point. We've been here a year and a half, and I went from practicing a line about how I buy eggs to being able to have a chat on the phone without being able to see the other person. So, wow. That is a big change.
And for me, I studied 2 or 3 years in high school and then 2 years solid in college. And in college, I started to have that aha moment where I was speaking fluently and without translating into English and all that. Well, that was 25 years ago.
That's a problem.
So for me, a lot of my skills have been coming back, but they're coming back. There is a difference between the Spanish I learned in formal education, which is Spanish, Castilian Spanish, and what is spoken in Mexico. It is kind of, I equate it to, it's the difference between English in England and English in the States. They're different. So for me, it was things are coming back, and I'm able to remember things a lot easier and stuff like that. But my formal education gave me a good basis of understanding, because sometimes I'll say something and I just inherently know it doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
You know?
There is a thing with, you start learning the order of the words and the order of verb tenses and those types of things, and you say it and you go, that's not right.
Yeah.
And that is a learning process. That's part of learning, and that means your brain is absorbing this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because for me, I've gotten a greater comfort level with speaking Spanish. I've gotten a greater comfort level of being able to just feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay. Trusting myself to at least communicate well, and then that feels really good.
Yeah. Well,
that is amazing.
Well, and we live in an area of Mexico where there is a high population of foreigners, and because of that, the Mexicans here are very, very patient, and they want you to learn, and they're learning English from you, and so it's a very reciprocal kind of a thing, and so it's a very patient thing. You go to Guadalajara, you go to Mexico City. People aren't speaking as slowly; they are speaking faster. And if you're in a situation, if you're in a business, they kind of expect you to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's great here, and it's very conducive to helping you acquire your Spanish.
Yeah, we call it a soft place to land for learning a language. There is, so the future, what we're looking at is maybe total immersion situations where we go and intentionally try to learn in immersive environment, or really just expanding and continuing to talk to people that don't know English. And in fact, maybe even help people learn how to speak English.
Yeah.
Because that's something we can offer.
And we're purposefully making friends that don't speak English or don't make any,
Right.
or don't speak very much English. Or some of our friends that are bilingual have actually just refused to speak English with us anymore. Because they know we're trying to learn. So it's good.
So it's actually a very interesting process to see yourself evolve from being scared to request something at the grocery store to being able to have a conversation on the phone without any thought to it. So it feels very good, and it's something that we want to continue to move forward on. And that's the biggest change I see for me. But
Yeah.
let's go on to number 2.
Okay, number 2. My eyes have been opened. So, coming from the U.S., there are certain stereotypes, and you hear, news stories and different things, and you're inundated with a lot of fear and a lot of stereotypes and all that about Mexico, the Mexican people, that sort of thing. And while there is a grain of truth in almost everything that you hear, no matter where you are in the world, there's little grains of truth everywhere. The thing is I feel like in the U.S., a lot of those things were like compounded and blown up to beyond the reality. And so, you get down here and weather. Yeah, in the States you think, oh my gosh, Mexico is just blistering hot. Well,
No.
yeah, there are parts of it that are.
Not
There are
every
parts of
place.
it that are not. There are places where it snows here. I mean, so it's there's a grain of truth. Yeah, Puerto Vallarta, summertime, it's hot.
Yeah. But you're by the ocean, so
Right.
off.
So
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand what some of those little kernels of truth are,
Yeah.
and move beyond, what you have been taught or what the news media has inundated you with in the U.S.
I think my brother said it best. He came down here and he's like, it's just people living their lives.
Yeah.
It's just people living their lives, and sometimes they do it a little differently than you do, and that's all it is. So I think that's been the biggest thing that has changed us, is coming here and realizing how much inherent, what do you call it? Just the belief system about how people or how Mexico itself is.
Yeah.
And having that change within you and really starting to understand the culture a little bit.
And I like to equate it to, so people kind of get hung up on the, U.S. and then moving to Mexico, moving to a foreign country and how different it's going to be and da-da-da. Well, Craig is from the Midwest in the U.S. and I am from the South. And, even in the U.S., there are perceived differences in cultures and food and da-da-da and all these different things. I think within the U.S.
I used to tell him we speak different languages.
We do.
Because the cultural differences between how we both grew up are so different. We would have to stop and explain ourselves sometimes.
And we still do.
Yeah.
I mean, we still, even after 13 years, we still, I will look at him and I'm like, you are not picking up what I'm putting down, and he's like, okay, how would we say that in the Midwest? We have to translate between ourselves. There's no difference. It's just, there are boundaries. There are legal boundaries, but it doesn't mean that, like if you go to South Texas, the culture in Laredo and along the border and in South Texas is going to be very similar to that right across the Mexican border. Culture just changes wherever you go. It's not necessarily defined by a border.
And what I think the biggest change in me has been is that there's more similarities than differences.
Yes.
You come here and everybody's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
They have different ways of saying good morning, but they're going to say good morning, and they're going to live their lives. They go to work. They love their children. They
go to the grocery store. They cook. It's, and the food, like in the Midwest, you eat beef and corn and potatoes because that's what's there. Down where I'm from, we eat different things. You go down to Louisiana, they're eating seafood. It's
But the truth of the matter is that it's all the same ingredients, just put together differently. And I think that's the big takeaway.
Right.
So number 3, people. People talk to each other. They actually care. If you had a good day, when you say good morning, they say good morning. They don't ignore you. In the States, we got you kind of used to that anonymity where you don't even acknowledge the person that's walking past you. Here, that's That's not us. That's a very big sign of disrespect. You would
It
say
is.
hello. And it's just a cultural thing.
Well, and same thing with service people. I mean, your waiters, the cashier at OXXO, which is like your 7-Eleven here. OXXO. Things like that. When you go up, you say good morning, good afternoon, you know, and you're kind and you're considerate. You don't, if you just walk up to a counter at a store and just be like, I want this and I want that, and you are perceived as a rude American.
Yeah,
you know,
and you're going to get better service if you walk in and you say
Right.
Buenos tardes and how are you and those kind of things, and then continue.
Yeah.
It's just a pleasantry and connection that you make here, and that's very different sometimes than where we're from. So another thing is that it's much more personal and welcoming as a whole. So as a American coming to Mexico, we're looked at with curiosity. I mean, there are people who have their opinions, but we're looked at with curiosity. We're looked at with intrigue. We're looked at interest.
It's not like you're a weird curio thing they're just staring at.
No.
It's an interest. They are curious about your culture. Where did you come from? About your life, and they want to share. Mexicans are a very proud people.
Yes.
They are very proud of their culture and their beauty and all of that sort of, and they want to share that with you.
We've been invited into homes for real, true home cooking in Mexico, and camaraderie and sitting and talking and sharing each other's cultures, and that's just an amazing thing to me.
Yeah, there's an intellectual openness here.
Yeah.
That I find very exciting and stimulating. Number 4, not worrying about what other people think about me.
I mean, when you come to another country, you are the stranger in a different place.
Yeah.
No matter how well you're received, you feel out of place. And you have to get over that, to speak the language poorly, to practice that stuff, to find the grocery store, to learn how to use the bus. You gotta just be okay with not worrying about how you look and act and feel.
Because you're going to be an idiot. I mean, you're not going to speak the language well. You're not going to know how the bus works. You're not going to know where to go get this or get that. And you're just going to be flubbing it up all over the place. And that's okay, because you know, you're basically a kid. You're in an environment that you're unfamiliar with, and you're having to relearn some things, and that's okay. Everybody's gone through it, or the people who've lived here their whole lives, they know that you're learning and they want to help you.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing is, like, don't worry about whether, you know, this person likes you or that person likes you, or what the socioeconomic strata that you came from and where you fit. That crap just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there is a big difference in how people perceive you. It's what's on the inside matters. It's the same with your possessions, with your with money, any of those things. All of that kind of fits under the same category of it's what's on the inside that matters.
Yeah.
And so they don't judge your appearance, they don't judge your looks as stiffly as maybe I've experienced in the past in other places.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is. It's about who are you. People are actually more interested in who are you, what do you like to do, what are your hobbies, all that sort of stuff. I mean, I have a ton of friends around here, even that are from the U.S. or people live here. I have no idea what they did or what they do for a living.
No
idea. It's just not. It's
that
not
is not
important.
the first question that you're asked here when you meet a new person who's from Mexico. They don't immediately say, "So what do you do?"
No.
They're like, "Oh, where are you from?" And
or what do you like to do?
Yeah.
You know, what are your hobbies?
How do you like it here in Mexico?
Right.
You know, they're immediately into finding out about you versus finding out about what you do.
Yeah.
Number 5. So this one is really about how you consume things here in Mexico differently. There's a word that I learned here, and it's suficiente, which is clearly sufficient. It's enough. You have enough. And you don't need to impress. You don't need to go into debt to buy something. If you have enough, you're very fortunate. Mm-hmm. And that's a great attitude to have, but it's a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. And in the States, that seems to be, in other parts of the world, I won't just blame the States, in other parts of the world that seems to be secondary. So what's interesting here is that, food is very different. How consumerism works here is very different, and there is consumerism here. It is very alive and well, but it's very different. And it's taught me to recognize those things that I go, wow, I really miss this. And then I go, but no, I don't.
Yeah, well,
and I really don't.
I think it's also important to say, you know, where we live,
Yeah.
it's one way. You go to Mexico City, Guadalajara, you know, Playa del Carmen. I mean, different places. It's going to be different.
Yeah. There's going to be different attitudes and the way people function. And there's going to be that in every country in every part of the world.
Right.
You definitely have people here that like to show off their wealth, and you definitely have people here who don't like to show off their wealth. So it's a part of the culture to just understand that you have enough, to be grateful for it. And it's really woken me up to the things that I had that we don't have anymore. When I miss them, really puts me in another mindset.
Things that we never needed.
We never needed in the first place. And so it's woke me up to that. And I appreciate what's around me more than worrying about what I don't have.
Right.
So, you want to take the last one?
Sure. Relationship. So, yes, the move has definitely changed our relationship and the way that Craig and I interact with each other and that sort of thing. You know, Craig did not have a full-time job, meaning that back when we were back in the States for the last several years, meaning that he didn't go to an office. He didn't have to go somewhere. You know, he was working his butt off. But I did. I had a full-time job that occupied a lot of my time. So we automatically had that time separation from each other. Here, where we moved here, you know, I didn't have that originally. And we spent a lot of time together. And I will say,
I got on his nerves. He got on my nerves.
Yeah, but I got on his nerves. I got on his nerves a lot more than he got on my nerves.
Well, I'm a grouch, so
yeah. Well, it's I think it has more to do with. I realized he has that time where we were together so much when we first got here. Craig has an independence about him. He needs alone time. Needs it. And I respect that, and I've always respected that. But
I'm a creative person, too, so I need that downtime. I'm a little bit of an introvert, and I need that, you know, okay, quiet now, thank you. Yeah.
Well, and for me, spending that much time together just fed this cocoony codependency. Oh my gosh, this is just wonderful. It's just me and you, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, he's like, oh my gosh, would you go away from me?
And it was equally as unhealthy for both of us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was equally unhealthy for both.
Because he just cocooned even more and more and more, and I never have to leave the house, and we can sit on the couch and watch TV.
It was like, it's COVID all over again.
Yes, and I'm like, I am going to run away into the darkness.
Right.
Yeah. And I love him dearly. He loves me dearly. That's not the point.
No, but we've learned to respect each other's boundaries, and we also we're able to see things in each other that the other person isn't being necessarily healthy with themselves, you know, and I mean emotionally and psychologically, you know, and so we've learned to respect each other and really help each other a lot more in those areas.
Yeah. Well, and it's also interesting because when we moved here, we immediately, you moved to a foreign country, and you don't know what to expect, and you can read all about it all day long, but living here is different. And we both kind of reacted to that in ways we didn't expect. And so KJ had a reaction that was very against his normal personality in the United States, as did I. It was interesting. You know, KJ was a little more thrown by some things that he didn't expect.
Yeah.
And I was the guy that usually is thrown by things, and I'm like, cool. Okay, that's new. You know, I just kind of ran.
He discovered tequila. No, I'm joking.
Please don't. Please don't. Never more than a shot a day. Anyway, okay, well, maybe once in a while on a Friday night. What I really mean by that is that, you know, you never know what you're going to figure out about yourself when you move into a new environment, when you take on a new challenge, a new job. Parts of you kind of reveal themselves when you put yourself in a new situation. And for us, that was very, very true. And I gained a newfound confidence for myself. The way I feel about it is that I gained a newfound confidence in just not knowing how to do things, doing them anyway, and diving in, not worrying about how I look, and being happy to have the experience versus worrying about how I'm going to be looked at. And I think for you, and I won't speak for you, but I think for you there was a challenge of just the unknown and thinking you knew what you knew, and then it was different. You know,
yeah, no, that's definitely been a challenge because, you know, I mean, I was the back in the States, I was the master of my little universe. You know, I mean, I knew what I was doing with my career, and I knew all of that sort of stuff, and I knew how to get to the grocery store and how to cook. I mean, I just mastered my little universe, and that's
even moving here, he was like the expert in how do we relocate. Everything.
The getting it done, and then once it's done, and then you're settling into the reality of things. I didn't know how to do a lot of things, and I discovered something about myself that I struggle with that. If I don't know how to do something or something, there's an internal struggle with me about that. I learn, and I want to learn how to do things and everything, but it's difficult for me to accept the fact that I just don't know how to do something.
Yeah.
That's something I struggle with.
Well, and I had the same thing. On the other side of that, it was really difficult for me to start speaking Spanish when I realized how terrible it was. I had a setback, big time.
Yeah.
And
there was a lot of fear. You had a lot of fear around it. I mean, and it was like one of those situations where my Spanish was much better in the beginning than Craig's was, and so I would make him get out and go do things. We would both be in a store or something and, walking up to the counter, and he'd turn and look at me, and I'm like, nope.
I'd be like, but you know the word for that.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it, But, I mean, I had to, help push him there to do it. And the thing is Craig's Spanish today is so much better than mine in certain respects. My Spanish is better than his in some respects, but his Spanish has grown a lot more than mine. His Spanish skills have grown a lot more than mine.
Most improved award.
I was going to say, you get the most improved award.
Thank you for the most improved award.
You get a bottle of agua.
Botella de agua.
Botella de agua, see. But I would say, to kind of wrap it up, I think that was moving here a stress on our relationship? Absolutely. Have we grown from it? Absolutely. Does the stress of going into the great unknown with somebody that you absolutely love and trust, does it strengthen that? It does. It does.
Can, if you let it.
If you let it. You have to.
It doesn't always look pretty.
No.
I've learned that too. Things that we've learned since moving to Mexico. Change and growth does not always look pretty, and it doesn't mean that it's going awry. It means you're in the throes of it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't understand. Sometimes I've had days where I just break down and want to cry because it's so overwhelming, and then other days where it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So, it comes and goes. It's a new experience, and you can't expect yourself to know everything.
Yeah.
So, but it will change you. This experience will change you.
Yes.
And let it change you.
Yes.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Grow. Let it change you and grow from it, and it's all good.
So thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, check out all of our links.
Oh, yeah.
Check out our links.
I don't know where he puts them, so I'm just pointing everywhere.
Like, subscribe, share, all of those things. I think I'm supposed to say all that now. Am I an influencer now because I say that for work?
I have no idea. Maybe you say it at dinner, too. But.
Well, that's true. Subscribe. If you haven't already, go find your truly remarkable life. Bye.
That was fun. Oh.